Alrighty. Shalom and Baruch haba. Peace to you and welcome to our advanced studies here at Congregation Mashiach Yisrael. My name is Scott Siskin, and tonight we are studying chapter 19 of our beloved Tanya. Mi yiftach otana b'tefilu uvracha. Who would like to open us with prayer and a blessing?
Avi, thank you for the opportunity to study and learn your word, to change our lives, and to move closer and closer to you. Give us wisdom and knowledge and understanding. Open our eyes to see and open our ears to hear what you have to say. Help us to learn it, know it, incorporate it in our lives, and allow it to change our lives and direct the way we go. In Yeshua's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Oh, short, sweet, and nice.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
So, chapter 19, you may remember last week we began our new section here. The title of our new section is Revealing the Hidden Love. The hidden love which exists in the heart of every Jew and Jewess. As an inheritance from our patriarchs, we learned. Can we say a word or two about what we learned from just chapter 18 regarding this hidden love? What is it? Where does it come from? It is accessed by extreme test of faith. Right? We're going to dive heavy into that tonight. We said that this hidden love is a love that's beyond logic. It's not the first love we talked about. Do you remember the first love we talked about? The service of the Beinoni. That you don't really feel love and fear in your heart, but you can think about God, and that will cause you to have an intellectual appreciation, love and fear for God, enough to get the mitzvahs done, right? Enough to do mitzvot.
Mm-hmm.
Shkoyach.
Shkoyach.
A little power for you. Bravo. But sometimes, people don't have the background, they don't have the IQ, they don't have the time to be able to sit and contemplate and think about God enough to be able to arouse even an intellectual love and fear of God. Mm. As such, there's another level of love very deep within us, at the core essence of who we are, so it's beyond logic, because it has nothing to do with what we know or what we can think about. It's just an inheritance, as we said, from our patriarchs, from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, this special love that is dormant within us, but can be accessed, like you said, at times of spiritual strain, right?
Mm-hmm. Its real source is God.
Its real source is it's actually a piece of God himself that lives within us. So that's where the love comes from.
Inherited through the patriarchs.
So it says here, therefore even the most worthless
Go ahead.
of worthless and the transgressors of Israelites, in the majority of cases, sacrifice their lives for the sanctity of God's name and suffer harsh torture rather than to deny the one God, although they be boors and illiterate and ignorant of God's greatness. Right,
when someone challenges your Judaism and says, kiss this golden statue or I'll kill you, there's no big thought process that goes on there. You know you're a Jew, you know that's going to separate you from God, and somewhere deep inside, your soul is screaming, I don't want to be separated from God, I want to be near God, so I'm not going to do that, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the essence of this hidden love. If we can learn to, and this section goes from chapters 18 to 25, and in chapter 25, the Alter Rebbe is going to wrap up to this concept. If we can learn to access this hidden love without these moments of intense spiritual strain, like having to take a bullet, God forbid, then we would be able to access it for mundane daily things, right? I think the example we used last week was it's way easier to put on tefillin rather than take a bullet, right? It's way easier to light Shabbat candles than it is to sacrifice your life. So if you can tap that hidden love to be able to do mundane things, it's actually a lot easier to do. And in this way, the Alter Rebbe is explaining how it really is owed very near to you in your mouth and your heart that you should be able to do it, because it exists within you already. You just need to unlock it. You just need to tap into it. So in chapter 19, we're going to look at a verse from the Bible, from the Proverbs, and we're going to look at this imagery of the candle. The verse is in Proverbs chapter 20, verse 27. It says, Ner Hashem nishmat Adam, the candle of God, the light of God, the candle of God is the soul of man. And we're going to dive into that. We're going to use the imagery of a candle to be able to help us understand a little bit about this hidden love. Okay? So our beloved Master Tanya has said that the title of this chapter is Fear of Separation from God. And the short description, when the Jew is put to a true test of faith, as we explained, his potential for self-sacrifice is activated. and he recoils from anything that would separate him from God. And this is the fear that is contained within this hidden love. Okay? Hidden love expresses itself, I want to be close to Dad because he's part of me, right? And the fear that exists within that hidden love is I don't want to be away from him, right? So, with that as our little intro, who would like to begin reading?
To elucidate still further, it is necessary to clarify the meaning of the verse. The candle of God is the soul, the neshama of man.
And again, that's from Proverbs chapter 20, verse 27.
What it means is that the souls of Jews who are called man are, by way of illustration, like the flame of the candle, whose nature is always to flicker upward.
So, just as a little bit of a illustratory help here, I drew us a candle. I won't quit my day job. But it's a candle, right? So we're saying here that by using the imagery of the candle and overlaying onto this candle the imagery of a man, a person, a human. There we go. How's that?
Yeah.
And now we have our candle Jew, right? If you look at yourself like this, then you could see the flame is the soul, right? And where's the headquarters of the soul, the godly soul? It's in your brain, right? It's in your head. The body is the wick, right? And then the wax or the oil that lights that fuels the candle are the mitzvot, right? And we're going to talk about this again and again and again. And this is the first place that we're introducing it. So there's our candle Jew. Oh, thank you.
For the flame of
go
the
ahead.
fire intrinsically seeks to be parted from the wick in order to unite itself with the source above in the universal element of fire, which is in the sublunar sphere, as is explained in Etz Chaim.
So we're saying that the nature of flame, and we were going to have a candle here, but the nature of flame is to ascend, right? The nature of earth is to sit, right? It doesn't fly up into the air. The nature of fire is that it is always jumping and dancing up, trying to remove itself from the wick. This is like your soul in your body. Your soul doesn't like being in your body, right? Your godly soul is like a princess trapped in a tower, wrapped in a serpent skin, it says in the Zohar. So the soul just wants to get out of the body and cleave to God, right? And be part of God, just like it says here. Just like the imagery of the candle, the flame.
And although it would thereby be extinguished and emit no light at all below, and
Right,
even
if the
above
flame
in
comes
its
off the
source,
candle, then it's not going to be able to stay lit anymore because it's no wick, no oil.
its light would be nullified. Nevertheless, this is what it seeks in accordance with its nature. In like manner does the nefesh of man, including the quality of ruach and nefesh, naturally desire to yearn to separate itself and depart from the body in order to unite with its origin and source in God, the fountainhead of life, blessed be He, though thereby it would become null and void, completely losing its entity therein, and with nothing remaining of its former essence and being. Nevertheless, this is its will and desire by its nature.
Oh, very nice. So, what happens if you take a little flame, like that? You take a little flame, right, and you add it to a big flame, right? What happens if you throw a candle into the bonfire?
It disappears.
It disappears. It's like the little flame is non-existent anymore, right? It doesn't even have an identity anymore. Just like the flame in a candle, if you were to remove the flame from the candle, the flame is not going to be anymore, right? This is just like our soul. The godly soul thinks nothing of itself. It just wants to be part of God and do God's will, right? So if the soul were to escape from our body, we would be dead. And the soul would just go back to the chamber of souls and be like part of God like every other thing, right? Go back to that spark of God from whence it was hewn, if you will.
Return to the source.
Return to the source, right? Just like the Neo in the Matrix, right? So, where we're moving now is we're going to talk about this concept. We've used this word a lot, nature. What is nature exactly? In short, nature is a trick question. Nature means something we can't explain.
In like
This
manner.
physical world
Next paragraph.
Oh, sorry.
Yep.
would be
Good.
Nature is an implied term for anything that is not in the realm of reason and comprehension. In our case, too, the inference is that this will and desire of the soul are not within the realm of reason, knowledge, and intelligence that can be grasped and understood, but beyond graspable and comprehensible knowledge and intelligence, for this nature stems from the faculty of Chokhmah, found in the soul, wherein abides the light of Ein Sof, blessed be He.
So let's just mull that over once more. Nature is something we can't explain, but is predictable, right? For example, gravity, right? Why is a small body attracted to a large body and bodies are attracted to each other? We don't know, They haven't found the graviton yet. There's no particles that they can find. We just know that this is what happens, right? When light enters into a room, it spills out and it reflects in every direction. We don't know why it does that. It just does that, right? And there are thousands of other examples. So, too, like we said last week, this hidden love comes from a place beyond logic, right? Like nature. We can't explain it. We just know that this is the way that it is, right? As such, we come back to the concept of Chokhmah, right? What was Chokhmah again?
Understanding.
Chokhmah is wisdom.
Wisdom, knowledge, and understanding.
Right? Take my sloppy sphero chart here. Chokhmah is the highest sphera, right? And it's the piece that is nothing of itself, right? It's koach ma. It's the potentiality of what? Of what is? It's the power of
what could be.
Right. It's just potential. So God has an ability to stand with Chokhmah. Excuse me.
God bless you.
Pardon me. God has the ability to stand and be revealed in Chokhmah because Chokhmah doesn't have any
Anything
pride of its own, any arrogance of its own, right? It doesn't have any ego of itself. And as such, God can be revealed there, right? Very similar, our souls, the godly soul, comes from the aspect of Chokhmah, right? As such, our souls have no ego, right? The godly soul doesn't care if it's going to die, if it's going to be separated from the body. It just wants to be close to God. In like manner, Chokhmah doesn't want anything but to just reveal God, right? So that's kind of what we're saying here.
This is a general principle in the whole realm of holiness. Yet, holiness is only that which is derived from Chokhmah called supreme holiness, which existence...
Kodesh HaElyon.
Whose Kodesh is nullified in the light of Ein Sof, blessed be He, which is clothed in it, so that it is not a thing apart, as is explained above. Therefore it is called Koachma, power of humility and abnegation. This stands in direct contrast to the so-called Kalipot and Sitra Akra, wherefrom are derived the souls of Gentiles who work for themselves alone, demanding give, and feed me, in order to become independent beings and entities as mentioned above, in direct contrast to the category of Chokhmah.
So what we're saying here is that in a normal, regular person of the world, you're going to see that they're going to do things that are going to benefit them, right? And that's natural, and that's fine. If you were to, for example, have, people are giving charity so that they can have a plaque on the wall or they can get a lot of recognition or whatever the situation might be, then that's great. Have them give and give them a plaque. There should be more people like this. We're not saying that's necessarily a bad thing. We're just saying it's ego-driven. And as such, you're not going to find God revealed there, right?
So, therefore, they are called dead, for wisdom, Chokhmah, gives life. And it is also written, they die without wisdom. So are the wicked and transgressors of Israel before they face the test to sanctify God's name. What does that mean?
So, when we have the situation where the hidden love is becoming revealed because your faith was put to the test, right? Then all of a sudden the hidden love is revealed. And as such, the person's willing to self-sacrifice.
This is the supreme test.
Right. What happens before that hidden love was revealed? The person looked like any other person, right? Self-serving.
So this is the, take the bullet. Test to sanctify.
Right. Whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it might be.
Yes.
So before that moment, the hidden love is still hidden. It's still dormant. It's still concealed. And as such, it's not functioning, active, revealed. And as such, the person looks like any other person, right? What's the difference between a Jew and anybody else? We're like everybody else, just a little bit more so, right?
We're like everybody else, just more so.
So
that takes some thought.
A little bit. It's clever. So as such, when we can learn to access this hidden love that is ours, we will be able to have God revealed in us, and we will then be able to be ego-less, and God can be revealed within us. And if everybody does this enough, then Mashiach comes, right? That's the idea.
For the faculty of Chokmah, which is in the divine soul, with the spark of godliness, from the light of Ein Sof, blessed be He, that is clothed in it, is, as it were, in exile in the body, within the animal soul, coming from the Kalipo, in the left part of the heart, which reigns and holds sway over their body in accordance with the esoteric doctrine of the exile of the Shekinah, as mentioned earlier.
So the Shekinah, the divine glory, God's presence, right? God's revealed presence is concealed and is in exile within us, right? God is with his people. It says it says in the Bible, when the Jews were exiled to Babylon, God went to Babylon with them, right? And that's why we say in our prayers that he should return our exile, so that he's coming back with us, right? The soul is a piece of God, like we said. And because we are, and this is the concept of book 3 of Tanya, Ageratat Teshuvah, the epistle on repentance, that when we sin, right, or when we act selfishly, whatever the situation might be, we are taking that spark of God, that piece of God that exists within us, and dragging it down into the depths of impurity, right? God forbid. So what the Kabbalah says, what the book 3 of Tanya here says, is that when you have Teshuvah, and we've said this before, it really means Tashuv Hey, right? To return the last Hey of God's name, return that spark of God that's within you back to its rightful and proper place, right? An elevated place.
Where did I leave off?
First paragraph for this
reason. For this reason. This love of the divine soul, whose desire and wish is to unite with God, the fountainhead of life, blessed be He, is called hidden love. For it is hidden and veiled. It is hidden and veiled in the case of transgressors of Israel, in the sackcloth of the Kalipo, whence there enters into them a spirit of folly to sin. As the rabbis have said, a person does not sin unless the spirit of folly has entered into him.
So, real quick, just as a bit of a review, what is Kalipa? Klipot. Klipa.
Husk.
Shell. What does that mean for us practically?
It is the ordinary things of this physical world.
That is Klipat Noga, right? The translucent husk and shell.
Right.
It's everything. It's going to work. It's working out. It's eating. It's sleeping. It's everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the only Klipa that there are?
No.
What's the others?
Bad ones.
The bad ones, right? The 3 impure husks and shells.
Right.
So when your body is engaged in that kind of activity, right? If you play in the mud, you get dirty. Similarly, you have all of this dirt, all this schmutz, all this klipot that's kind of on you now, concealing and acting like a shell to hide the godliness that is within, right? So that means if you want to get cleaned up, right, you don't just put on a new suit over the filth, right? You scrub off the dirt first, and then you put the suit on. Now, we've said this before as well. I don't think we need to go over it too much, but what is the spirit of folly? Ruach shtus. Do we know about that?
I remember you are mentioning the spirit of folly.
Spirit of folly. Man does not sin unless a spirit of folly enters him. And that's from the Talmud tractate Sota, Daf Gimel.
And you called it Ruach
Shtus. The spirit of folly, right? So the idea here is...
I don't even know how to spell that.
I don't know.
Transliterate. It's a lot of letters. There's one vowel.
So the idea here is that if you have a regular functioning normal human being, he's going to see something that's forbidden and say, I shouldn't touch that, right? I shouldn't do that. However, we know that that's not the case, right? We have little things whispering sweet nothings into our ear saying, it's not that bad, right? It's just a rabbinic mitzvah, right? Sorry, was that a little close to home? It's not that big a deal, right? If I engage in this, I won't be separated from God. It's not that bad, right? That's the spirit of folly that enters into us and tells us it's going to be okay. God, this is all going to come out in the wash. God's not even going to pay attention. He's not even going to care.
There is, in fact, a verse in the Torah that addresses that.
It is. It's in Deuteronomy.
It really speaks of self-deception.
Right, where you say all those bad things they say are going to happen. It's not. It's just not going to happen to me, right? Maybe it happens out there, but it won't be to me, right? I'm going to come out clean out of all this. And the fact of the matter is, that's a spirit of folly, right?
Mm-hmm.
What happens when the spirit of folly comes? It says,
You sin.
yeah, you're going to end up sinning, right? And you can't not sin, or you certainly can't. Let me start over and say this again. When the spirit of folly comes to you, you can fight it and do the mitzvah, do the godly thing anyways.
Mind over matter.
Right. However, and that's what we talked about before. Mm-hmm. However, you won't probably ever sin unless the spirit of folly comes to you, right? Because otherwise you would...
What are you doing there, Bob?
Cleaning the table.
Otherwise you would see it for the evil that it is, right? And this is the big problem that happened to us after Adam and Eve in the garden, right? When Adam ate that fruit, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, everything in this world became
Can you just put that on the
mixed.
floor? It's going to leave a white mark.
What?
There's a
This here?
coaster here.
Oh, no. This is all right. It's insulated.
So when Adam ate the fruit back in the garden, everything became mixed, good and evil. All evil has a little bit of good mixed in it, and all good has a little bit of evil mixed in it. And now we spend 98% of our time trying to discern, is this good, is this bad, can I touch it, can I eat it, can I use it, is it whatever the situation might be, right?
Exhausting.
That is kind of the nature of this physical world.
It wasn't always that way. It wasn't always that way. We made it that way. Yeah,
For a day.
precisely whatever you said.
For a day.
For today.
For a day.
For a day, for a short time. Right,
Mhm.
very true, very true.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's quite all right. So, the spirit of folly comes in, and it gets you to sin, right? And that's the situation that we have talked about before.
Okay. However, this exile of the faculty of Hokmah refers only to that aspect of it which is diffused throughout the nefesh and animates it. Yet the root and core of this faculty of the divine soul remains in the brain and does not clothe itself in the sackcloth of the Khalifa in the left part of the heart, in veritable exile. But it is, as it were, dormant in the case of the wicked, not exercising its influence in them so long as their knowledge and understanding are preoccupied with mundane pleasures.
So, I mean, that's the story of man right there, right? You have a godly brain, you're created mind over matter with your brain over your heart, not like a cow. But we're upright, right? And all of our passions are coming from the blood, right? All the hot blood, and it's pumping all kinds of, etc., etc. And in the brain, you have logic and reason and rationality and all kinds of good stuff. And this is what we've been talking about in the previous section, a bunch, when we talked about the difference between a tzaddik and a beinoni and a rasha. A tzaddik, there is no ruach shdus, there is no spirit of folly, there is no falling, slipping, mistakes, temptation, trial. It doesn't exist. He's got two godly souls. God up here, it's God down here, it's God everywhere, right? For a beinoni, it's God up here, and it's, evil, darkness down here. And it tempts us with all kinds of pleasurable things, right?
And they're in the battle.
And they're in the battle, right? And the brain has to control the heart, mind over matter.
It's not even pleasurable things. Sometimes it's unpleasurable things.
Yeah.
Anger and impatience and lack of love, your neighbor as yourself. There's a million different things that
Definitely
it
true.
tempts you
This
with.
world is full of those too.
When you have, when you look into the psychology of victimhood, right? You find people who habitually put themselves in a position because it's comfortable, right? I remember that, so I'll maintain anger, I'll maintain vulnerability because, it doesn't make any sense, right? That's spirit of folly if I ever heard.
Know.
Yeah, right? It's you're comfortable with what you know. The devil you know. So, where were we here? In the rasha, it's evil in the heart, right? Temptation in the heart. And the brain is being controlled by the heart, as opposed to the heart controlling the brain, right? And as such...
Therein lies the danger, right?
That's a huge danger, right? That's where you get to pathological...
all the time.
The heart controls the mind in a rasha, right?
Oh.
So the heart is sending blood to the brain, just trying to figure out ways to attain its desires, right? Whatever they are.
And it's rationalization. It actually says, I think in Proverbs maybe, that passion is just horrible.
It certainly can.
That's not the quote, but it says that. It's like,
well,
the quote is something...
That would be a misdirected passion, yes.
Well,
Yeah.
the concept is not passion, but passion for your heart leading your head and talking yourself into doing the spirit of folly, which is what you really want to do when you know that's not what you're supposed to be doing.
Absolutely true.
And that passion has led you astray, and that's the concept.
And it's predictable, right? Benjamin Franklin, the theory of or the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results, right?
Expecting a different result, exactly.
And that's what the Alter Rebbe is saying here when he says, if you are not exercising influence over your heart, right? The godly soul in your brain is dormant, is hibernating, is sleeping, and you spend time thinking and understanding and being preoccupied with mundane pleasures. Do you have even a chance to win at that point? If you're, racking your brain and turning the cogs and everything, trying to figure out how you can get this new pleasurable thing, or go my comfy place, or whatever the situation is.
Because it's proven that you go, I think it even teaches it in Tanya, you go where your mind goes. It starts with that thought in your mind, and then you will go where your mind goes. Right. Which is why they say, don't ponder on things that are bad, because
so true.
Your mind, and what does it say? Keep a briefcase of Torah in your pocket. You know what I'm saying?
That's very good. Yeah, well, you go from pondering to planning.
Well, and then before you know it, you're walking down the road.
So next week in chapter 20, we're going to be talking about that exact concept. Everything in this world, from the human perspective, happens in a 5-step progression, right? Intellect, emotion, thought, speech, deed. First, I get an idea about something. Then I develop feelings about it. I like that. I don't like that. Then I think about it, the details. Then I speak about it with my friends, and then I go do it. Right? And we'll talk about that more next week. But exactly what you were saying. So when you see some of these people out there in the world, right? Not to say anything about any kind of profession, but you'll see people who give professional advice, and they'll say, oh, you got to talk about it, or it's okay to fantasize about it, just don't do it.
God forbid.
Or, got to get your feelings out, all that stuff. Chassidus, the Torah says the exact opposite kind of a thing. It says if you are thinking about it, then you're going to end up doing it. Right. If you are I think the example Rabbi Gordon gave, if you're trying to love your spouse, right, and you go to coffee with your friend and you trash your spouse for 3 hours, right, and then you go back home and you're supposed to be lovey-dovey, how are you supposed to do that when you just spent 3 hours talking about all the negative stuff, right?
Right.
Spend some time talking about the good stuff. Yeah. Okay, it's a stretch. You have to try.
All you can see is an elephant.
Right. And before you know it, you're down this snowball effect, right? So just to kind of give us back to where we started here a little bit with our candle Jew, when you have more crust, more klipot on your person, the light doesn't shine as much, right? The flame here and you want to,
of course, we should highlight
lampshade.
The wick.
The wick.
That's an important part of this whole.
The wick is the body, right?
Yes.
So again, and maybe we'll make notes on this, I guess, really quick. Yeah, I think I'm going to make some really quick here.
Oh, notes?
Would you like colored markers?
I like black. Just kidding. Nothing wrong with black, though.
I think we should color code. Wait a minute, how many arms does he have?
Couple. Alright, I could probably make more notes on that, but I don't want to hold this up. So again, the flame is the Shekhinah, right? The candle of God is the soul of man. And that head inside there might make a note that this is the neshama, right? The godly soul is what can hold this flame of God, right? Because it's a non-entity. It doesn't exist. The body is the wick, right? That's going to burn. What happens if you have no fuel, no oil, which are listed here as mitzvot? What happens to the wick if you light a piece of string on fire?
It goes out.
It's going to burn up, right?
Up. Right.
And this is very similar to... yes, very similar. Very similar. Your note there is the parable in the New Testament about the 10 virgins with the oil, right?
5 want to go back and get some, and you can't get them.
You can't once it's too late and it's not there and you're already burning. I mean, this is what happens when God reveals himself. If there's no mitzvot to protect you, it's going to get hot, right? Similarly speaking, if you look in, I believe it's Ecclesiastes chapter 9, you'll see that King Solomon gives you a warning. Make sure you never run out of oil, right? Make sure you always have fuel. Make sure you always have mitzvot. And that'll keep your body healthy, right? It'll keep the wick protected. It'll keep the wick alive. So, the imagery, we're going to come back to this, but, oh yeah, there you go.
Let me just make a note of this.
I wanted to make sure that we were still remembering where we came from.
Open that window and see if it gets cold.
That's okay. I'll just schwitz.
Okay, hold on.
That's fine. There you go. Beautiful. So, again...
What did we say exactly? When the heart is over the head, or when the heart...
When the heart controls the mind, that's
the
a
mind.
Russia. That's a wicked person. You're living in sin.
Well, you just talk yourself into stupid.
Right, and it's easy, right? It's not very hard to get there. Similarly, if you spend your time engaging in klipot activity, right, then you are going to find yourself cruddy, and the light is not going to be able to shine as well. Excuse me. Neshama, the wick, wax, fuel, beautiful. Beautiful.
Okay, sorry about that. Note taking. Okay, so, nevertheless, when they are confronted with a
If you can
test
see that, I don't know.
in a matter of faith, which...
So, yeah, just...
Sorry.
No, that's fine. So this is the way it should work, and we just went down a whole list in this paragraph talking about ways it's not working because you're engaged in too much sin in whatever level, even a lot, right? Even a pathological, the heart is ruling the mind, right? Then nevertheless.
Okay. Nevertheless, when they are confronted with a test in a matter of faith, which transcends knowledge, touching the very soul and the faculty of Hokmah within it, at such time it is aroused from its sleep, and it exerts its influence by virtue of the divine force that is clothed in it, as it is written, and I awoke like one who had been asleep. On such an occasion, the sinner is inspired to withstand the test of faith in God without any reasoning, knowledge, or intelligence
Beyond logic, right?
that may be comprehended by him, and to prevail over the kalipa and temptations of this world, whether permitted or prohibited, to which he had been accustomed, even to despise them and to choose God as his portion and lot, yielding to him his soul, to suffer martyrdom, in order to sanctify his name.
So, what did we just say there?
He can rally.
He can rally, right? If you have a situation where there is, the flame is not burning bright, it's a smoldering wick now, maybe it's not even glowing anymore, and you are in a place where you're not shining godliness, right? And your faith is tested, whatever that means. And we're going to find out later what does that mean. When your faith is tested, it means you're confronted with a choice that you know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is going to separate you from God. You know that if I do that, it's going to be bad between me and God. All of a sudden, you rally. All of a sudden, that smoldering wick, that little ember that's even gone, is now bursting into a raging flame. Not enough to just stop you from sinning, but even enough to despise the thing that's causing you distance from God. Mm-hmm. How does that happen? I mean, let's just say that again. You were a pathological, habitual sinner before, and now your faith is tested, and then all of a sudden those things that made you sin you despise? How powerful is this hidden love, right? Mm. And why is it so powerful? It comes from God himself. It's a part of God himself. So if we can, again, learn to access this hidden love in such a way that we can do it without our faith having to be tested, and we can do it without a gun to our head,
and be easier for us as well,
then you can do every mitzvah. You can do everything that God wants and be a perfect person and hasten the coming of Mashiach, and all you had to do was just tap into this battery that's already within you, already inside of you. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. For even though, am I in the right place? The Kalipot had prevailed over him all his life, and he was impotent against them. As the rabbis have said, that the wicked are under the control of their heart.
Like we just said.
Yet, when he faces a test challenging his faith in the one faith in one God, a faith which has its roots in the uppermost heights of holiness.
We're, again, beyond logic, right?
Namely, the faculty of Hokmah, of the divine soul, in which he is clothed with light of the Ein Sof. Blessed be he. Then all the Kalipa are made null and void, and they vanish, as though they had never been in the presence of the Lord.
Isn't that incredible? I mean, again, how powerful is this hidden love? I mean, practically speaking, it's a lot more powerful than the contemplation stuff we were talking about before, right? Because now, all this stuff that has kept you sinning your whole life is despicable to you, and it melts away, as we're going to say, like wax, right?
It's like that story that we read about the guy who had died and...
Oh, sure. All of a sudden, once the light turns on and you see everything the way it is, you realize,
Awkward.
oy vey, right? And now I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that I fight. And that gentleman became a great chassid, yeah.
And he's a rabbi. So it is written, all the nations are as nothing before him. And indeed your enemies, O Lord, indeed your enemies shall perish, all evildoers shall be scattered. And again, as the wax melts before the fire, let the wicked perish. And the mountains will melt like wax. The force that... Am I in the right spot? The force of the divine light of the Ein Sof, blessed be He, is clothed in the soul's chokmah, is great and powerful enough to banish and repel the Sitra Achra and the Kalipo, so that they could not even touch its garments, namely the thought, speech, and act of faith in the one God.
So, I mean, maybe we're on broken record here, but again, how powerful is this hidden love? You just took all the klipa that's holding you down, melted it like wax, and now all of that spirit of folly, all those demonic sweet whispers, you should do this or do that, or don't do that like you should, all of that is repelled so far. All the unholiness is repelled so far, it can't even touch your garments, your thoughts, your speech, or your actions.
Well, it's like, doesn't that sound like right out of Revelation?
Well,
that's like wax and all that.
That's exactly what's going to happen when God is revealed, like we just said with Rabbi Anava, right? When everything is revealed, all of a sudden you get it, right? And in Daniel, in Revelation, and other places, it talks about the wicked are going to respond, amen, right? They're going to say, well, we were wicked and we know what's right now. I'm very, very sorry. Yeah.
Let's pray. The light gets turned on before it's too late.
Amen, amen. That's why we study.
In other words, it enables one to withstand a test of self-sacrifice.
Withstand a test.
Withstand a test of self-sacrifice. Can you tell I talk all day? By the end of the day, I'm like, I just need to be quiet. To the extent of even refusing to do some single act that is contrary to the faith in the one God, such as, for example, to bow to an idol, even without acknowledging it in his heart at all, or to utter any false notion, heaven forbid, regarding the unity of God, but it merely by way of rendering lip service. I'm sorry, I'm not reading very well.
No, it's fine.
While his heart remains perfect in the belief in God.
So a perfect biblical example of this would be Hannah and her 7 sons, right? And the king says, okay, don't bow to me, but I'm just going to drop my ring, and you pick it up, right? And you make like you're doing it. Even that, the people, once their faith is awakened, right? Once this hidden love is made not dormant, it wakes up, it's active, and it's functioning now. Even something that even feels like a sin, there's no way I'm going to do that, right?
Fear that is contained in love, the natural love of the divine soul that is found in all Jews.
This is an important part of this chapter, yeah.
Is intrinsic desire, the intrinsic desire and will of which is to be attached to its origin and source in the light of Ein Sof, blessed be He.
So again, that's very important contribution of chapter 19 here. We are talking hidden love, hidden love, hidden love. Where, it's Moshe said using God's word in Deuteronomy, what is it that God wants from you already? Just to fear him, right? Just to fear him. So, if it's supposed to be very near to you in your mouth and in your heart, we're talking about hidden love. Where's the fear, right? Fear is contained within the hidden love, as we explained a little bit earlier.
Where's your love, fear, love thing?
This is the hidden love, right? So this is innate natural stuff. Oh. So we talk about the innate love being, I am a part of God lives within me, I want to be close to him, and the fear component of that, the other side of that coin, is I don't want to be separated from him, right? And that's the fear that exists within the hidden love, so it's an important point.
For by virtue of this love and this desire, it instinctively recoils in fear and dread from touching even the fringe of impurity of idolatry, heaven forbid, which denies the faith in one God, even where such contact involves only its outer garments, namely speech and act, without any faith whatsoever in the heart.
So even if the person's just going to fake it, even that he's not going to do. And he's going to think in his heart, I really love God and I'm just doing this to stay alive. Even that he won't be able to do.
God throws that out as well, no?
What'd you say?
God throws that out as well, no? That doesn't, like he looks at it and goes, yeah, I don't think so. It counts as though you're doing it.
Well, I mean, God judges by the heart. That's very true.
Yeah, but doesn't it say somewhere that if you do that, he counts it as though you're really doing it?
Yeah, it's not good, right?
Yeah.
And somewhere deep inside, the godly soul realizes that and says, I'm not even going to do that, right? I'm not even going to come close to that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And again, that's the fear that's contained within the hidden love. And that's chapter 19.
That's a good chapter.
What do you think?
Love it. Now, what... that was very good. And these are the things, this is why I think Tanya's, you said one time, what is the one thing that changed your life or your faith or something the most? I think it's Tanya, because it's shining the light on the things that we know but we don't have words for.
Right.
Like
articulating it.
I mean, how many times I have one friend who I adore that this is the fight, is super smart, super awesome, super everything. But the weakness is the heart sometimes gets ahead of the brain and literally
before you
talks yourself into doing something, and it brings chaos in their life every single time. And they kind of know it, but they don't know it. But you can see it clearly because it's right here. Yeah. And yeah, it's just, but a million examples just like that is to be able to put words and light on our actions and how we work and the technology of how all this works so that we can change, restrict, and get back on the right path.
If we're aware, it sounds so much easier. Right?
Well, what did he say? He said it right back here. I thought this was, again, super powerful. I wonder if I underlined it because I underlined everything. What did it say? Something about the sin and how it just stink. I lost
the force of the divine light, clothing the soul's kokma.
No,
it's great and powerful enough to banish and repel the Sitra Akra.
No, I'm talking about the sin itself. Literally, just overtakes you.
Oh, I see where.
You know what I'm saying?
In the portion of the 4th of Shabbat.
Oh.
Where does it say that?
Even
in the portion of the 4th of Shabbat?
Dormant in the case of the wicked, not exercising its influence over them as long as their knowledge and understanding are preoccupied with mundane pleasures.
No, there was one line in there. Where did it? So at any rate,
on such occasions, sinners inspired to withstand the test of faith in God, to prevail over the klipa and temptation of this world, even to despise them, and choose God as his portion, even though the klipa had prevailed over him all his life.
Yeah, and that's really the part of the essence of this chapter.
That's on the top of the right column of 82. That's not it? Oh, I could swear that would have been it.
Sorry.
But still, your testimony is beautiful, and it's so important, and it's worth talking about a little bit. I have a very similar testimony. Book 2 of Tanya here is really what changed my faith. 100%. You can't read these words and not be affected by it. And this is what Chassidus is, right? Chassidut, right? And we talk about, I think the description on the video, it says, was Yeshua HaMashiach, was he a Chassid? Was he Chassidic, right? And the answer is, look at this. Chassidic means taking this lofty, esoteric knowledge and bringing it down to a articulate level so that the regular anybody can read and look and learn and see what's going on, what's going on, how all that stuff affects you on a very, very practical level. Is that not exactly what Yeshua did?
Hello.
He said, I came for the sinners, not the sick, not the healthy, right?
Right, but that was literally the whole point.
Much sweat here.
I know, I'm sorry, it's hot. We need to put Anderson.
So, that's essentially the idea, We're taking this lofty knowledge that's been with our people for almost 4,000 years now, plus. And we're saying, this is what's happening to you in life. This is what's going on. Choose life, right? Again, the message is not different from anything in the Torah. It's just looking at it a little bit deeper, right? And that's exactly what Yeshua came to do, to get us back on the track. Like every other prophet, mind you. I mean, Yeshua was a little bit more than a prophet. But that said, every prophet only ever takes you back to Torah, and we say it over and over again. There's nothing new outside the Torah.
And if they don't, then they're not. Then they're
That's
not
the litmus test to see if they're a prophet or not. Anybody who interprets the Bible as in you don't have to do that, that's a false prophet. I mean, that's maybe not even a prophet, but certainly a liar or misinformed.
This is what I was looking for. Therefore, they are called dead. For wisdom, chokmah gives life.
Right.
That's the whole point. Is if you don't know, you die. You die in your sins. You don't. It says, what does it say in the Bible? My people die for lack of knowledge.
Right.
You got to find out.
Absolutely.
You got to find out, because once.
And it's your responsibility too. Just because you don't know, that's not an excuse.
Study to find yourself approved.
Drive down the highway going too fast, and the cop who pulls you over is gonna.
Right.
Oh, I didn't know I was going that far. I didn't know I couldn't do that. He's gonna well, you should know if you're in a car and you're driving that car.
And it's your responsibility.
You should know that while you're in the body and you're running through this world with all of the laws, you should know. Don't jump off a cliff. Right.
Right. Yeah.
Where was that? For wisdom?
That is on page 80 on the right-hand side, where it says about the this stands in direct contrast to the so-called, and it's at the end. Therefore, they are called dead. For wisdom, chokmah gives life. To me, that's exactly what all 5 books of the Tanya is. It makes you see. I like being able to bring it down to Hod. It's like. Sure. Like Kabbalah, it's the technology of how it works. If you can understand how things work, then you know how to play the game. You got the rules of the game.
You know
how to fix it.
Possibly, or at least you know what to do, what not to do.
I mean, you learn that as well. You learn teshuvah. You learn all those things of even the 13 attributes of mercy. All these things are in the tools and how to use them and go. Oh, okay, so I know I'm in the soup now. I know I need to do this.
Right.
Because
and again,
this is what he says.
None of this is new either, right?
No.
All of this is right out of the Torah.
Forever old.
Right.
Forever
and
old.
Every chapter begins with another verse, all explaining Deuteronomy 30:14, which comes from the Torah.
Right.
Right. This really is easy. It just takes a little bit of focus.
But it's also, it's kind of like Abraham calling to God for 50 years before God says, "Hi, how you doing?" Mm-hmm. Because you have to. I mean, I remember finding that in the Bible 30 years ago. And I can't even remember where I found it, but he looks through a lattice, and it's kind of a hide-and-seek game. And if you really want me, then you have to seek me. And you've got to prove that you really want to know, and if you do, then he'll show you.
Yeah.
But you have to prove that you want to know, because he's not, he's not getting pearls before swine, so to speak.
Think about that word picture. Unless you draw close to the lattice, you can't see through it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
All you see is the lattice.
That's
true.
True. That's true.
And that's really the perfect parable for Earth, right? Because we see stuff, right? We don't see the words of God that energize this stuff. We don't see God floating in the sky. We just see stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And if you get, and that's the message of this chapter as well. If you get too caught up in that stuff, you're going to end up leading. You're going to end up leading a life of hedonism, of self-servingness.
Well, and then
that's going to build ego,
and
that's going to hide God. And now you're going to be finding a place of chaos, right? You're going to find yourself in a place of chaos.
Which is just like the parable of the seeds.
Very true.
The problems of the world choked it out.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, how do you get out of that pit? Wipe out the schmutz. And you recognize that in your heart of hearts, you really do want to be close to God. And you don't want to be far away from Him. And as such, go do good. Go and sin no more, right?
Well,
return.
Teshuvah. 2, learn.
And learn
the
all
more
you can.
you learn, it makes it easier to do.
Absolutely.
Because once you know what you're supposed to do, then even if it's inconvenient or you don't want to, you feel guilty because your son told you had to take 7 days and not 5, and then you do the right thing.
Oy vey. And on that note, please join us next week for...
Let's draw that right down.
Chapter 20. In Chapter 20, we're going to be talking about, as we said earlier, this 5-step progression. Intellect, emotion, thought, speech, deed. This is how the human body functions.
Stop.
This is how we work.
Wait, stop. One more time. Go.
Okay.
One more time.
Next week, intellect, emotion, thought, speech, deed. And they go in
That's the
order.
name of Chapter 20?
Oh, no. It's called Divine Unity.
Progression of sin?
Of everything. Everything.
5-step progression.
Okay, so what are you saying about this?
Well, that's what we're going to learn next week.
I know.
And that
tell
was
me that.
Intellect, emotion, then thought, then speech, then deed. First I get an idea about something, then I develop an opinion about it, I emote about it,
This is
then
the
I
whole...
think about it, then I speak about it, and then I'm going to end up doing it.
This is the whole... This is humanity right there. Everything
in
free
this world
will,
functions like
good,
that.
evil, every bit of it is just right there.
Right. So if the thing that comes into your intellect is good and holy, you'll end up doing
fruit.
right. If you're studying Torah and you're gonna develop an emotion about it, you're gonna stop studying Torah later. You're gonna think about it. You're gonna say it to a friend, and then you're gonna go do a mitzvah sometime.
Mm-hmm.
If you're thinking of, if you get the idea to sin, right? If you get an idea of sin, right, and then you develop an emotion about I want that, right, and then you think about it after you left that situation, then you speak about it to somebody else, and you're like, oh yeah, I want that too. Now you're gonna end up doing it, God forbid, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it all works like that, and we're gonna learn how, when it comes to God, that whole process is all in one step, basically, according to Him, because He's so much higher than all of this stuff. Mm-hmm. But for us, it's everything we can possibly do. For Him, it's the bottom 2 layers of skin cells on the foot.
Yeah, but He's in those skin cells. Oh, see, I have it right here.
All right. So,
very good.
Last thoughts or questions on 19? Again, we have our candle Jew. And again, the fire is the Shekhinah. It's God's presence. The little headpiece here, that's the soul, right? Our neshama, the godly soul. The body is the wick. The mitzvot are the fuel, is the oil, is the wax.
And where does that live?
And that is us. That's our whole package.
That's in our hands, isn't it?
The wax?
The mitzvot, the oil.
Right, that's external to the wick, right? That's surrounding the wick. And that's...
Oh, I see, your whole body. Gotcha.
Right.
Oh, because you technically do it with your whole body.
Because you do it with your whole body, which reminds me of a funny story that I heard from Rabbi Gordon's father. I heard from Rabbi Gordon, I heard it from his dad. And no offense to anybody, but he said back in the old country, you know, people used to study Torah with their mouths, and they used to put on tefillin with their arm, and they would put the tallis on their shoulders, and they would walk to shul with their feet, and they would they use their entire body to do every mitzvah, right? So the mitzvot surround the entire wick, right? Now when people come over to America, people are like, they don't really do any of that stuff. They just say, I'm a Jew in the heart. I'm a Jew in the heart. And Rabbi Gordon's father...
think about it.
Right. Rabbi Gordon's father
made
hospital visits for years, many decades, right? And the common thing is you see people were dying of heart disease, right? Mm-hmm. All these Jews in the heart. It's too much pressure on the heart can't take it, right? You just spread that out. Put it on, you put up that tefillin, you light the candles, you do all this other stuff.
Oh, wow.
So that is good imagery, and again, we're going to come back to this in later chapters, in later books of Tanya, this imagery of what we affectionately referred to as the candle Jew. But that's 19.
That's awesome.
Who would like to close us in prayer?
I'll close us in prayer. Yeah, you are awesome. We love your word. It's exciting. It's wonderful. Help us to see and hear more and more and more, and help us to incorporate everything that we learn, not just into our lives and ourselves, but be a light to the nations, to be a light to the world, to be a light to other people, to quietly show people through our actions in our lives how to walk in faith, in love, and in unity, and to bring Yeshua back speedily in our day. Amen.
Amen.
To let our light shine.
So shine.
You should write a song about that, I think. Well, Baruch Hashem, you want to shut us down over here? Join us next week for chapter 20 of Tanya.
Amen.
Where do I find that?